Hi, first grade. It's time for another Robert Munsch story in our author study. Today's book is a good one. It is super funny throughout the whole story, and it is about a little boy that lives where it's cold and where the kids actually have to wear snowsuits outside. So if you're not sure what a snowsuit is, you can ask your parents or you'll figure it out when you see the story. And this is about a little boy that does not like to wear his snowsuit. I like this book because before I moved to Texas, I taught in Wisconsin, and this is what it was like to get kids in snowsuits at recess time. By the time you got the snowsuits on and out the door for recess, it was time to turn around and come back inside. It takes that long, and they are such a pain to wear, but you need them because it's so cold. So this story reminds me of when I taught up north. Maybe it will remind you of something like a big jacket that you don't want to wear that mom wants you to wear. So I hope you enjoy the story. Thomas's Snowsuit, written by Robert Munsch, illustrated by Michael Marchenko. From the cover, can you predict what might have happened at school? Look what the teacher is wearing, and look what Thomas is wearing. Watch for that scene to happen. One day, Thomas's mother bought him a nice new brown snowsuit. When Thomas saw that snowsuit, he said, "That is the ugliest thing I have ever seen in my life. If you think that I'm going to wear that ugly snowsuit, you are crazy." Thomas's mother said, "We will see about that." The next day, when it was time to go to school, the mother said, "Thomas, please put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." His mother jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So Thomas's mother picked up Thomas in one hand and picked up the snowsuit in the other hand, and she tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight. And when it was done, Thomas was in the snowsuit. Thomas went off to school and hung up his snowsuit. When it was time to go outside, all the other kids jumped into their snowsuits and ran out the door. But not Thomas. The teacher looked at Thomas and said, "Thomas, please put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." The teacher jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So the teacher picked up Thomas in one hand, picked up the snowsuit in the other hand, and tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight. And when they were done, the teacher was wearing Thomas's snowsuit, and Thomas was wearing her dress. When the teacher saw what she was wearing, she picked up Thomas in one hand and tried to get him back into the snowsuit. They had an enormous fight. When they were done, the snowsuit and the dress were tied into a great big knot on the floor. And Thomas and the teacher were both in their underclothes. Just then the door opened and in walked the principal. The teacher said, "It's Thomas! He won't put on his snowsuit." The principal gave his very best principal look and said, "Thomas, put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So the principal picked up Thomas in one hand, and he picked up the teacher in the other hand, and he tried to get them back into their clothes. And when he was done, the principal was wearing the teacher's dress. The teacher was wearing the principal's suit, and Thomas was still in his underwear. Then, from far out in the playground, someone yelled, "Thomas, come and play!" Thomas ran across the room, jumped into his snowsuit, got his boots on in 2 seconds, and ran out the door. The principal looked at the teacher and said, "Hey, you have on my suit. Take it off right now." The teacher said, "Oh no, you have on my dress. You take off my dress first." Well, they argued and they argued and they argued, but neither one wanted to change first. Finally, Thomas came in from recess. He looked at the principal, he looked at the teacher. Thomas picked up the principal in one hand, picked up the teacher in the other hand. They had an enormous fight, and Thomas got everybody back into their clothes. The next day, the principal quit his job and moved to Arizona, where nobody ever wears a snowsuit. I hope you enjoyed that silly Robert Munsch book. I hope that you're seeing lots of patterns in the style of writing that Robert Munsch does. He's very funny and writes about real things, real kids, and makes up these great stories about them. I hope you're liking our author study. We have a lot more Robert Munsch books to go, so we'll continue with this on our next read.